Right. Good morning and welcome to third season cooking. It's the final round of the RBC Canadian Open, so I'm wearing my RBC Canadian Open shirt. It is a beautiful morning, and I'm wishing you coffee and good things, and a little bit of, part of the third season cooking is making different kinds of foods. I had a really odd interaction when I first started up on Reddit. There was a young, I don't know, Redditor who was talking about making pancakes for him and his brother. And I just gave him a little bit of advice in terms of how to cook pancakes. And I thought I would pass that along today because pancakes are something we all eat. We don't always know. This recipe is one I call fluffy pancakes. Starts off with buttermilk. You don't have buttermilk. What a surprise. I have buttermilk because I make butter. And as a result, I usually have a supply of buttermilk somewhere. Now, what I'm making is fake buttermilk. Fake buttermilk is a tablespoon or so of white vinegar, which creates, I don't know, some chemical reaction or other. Then we're going to add to that, we're going to fill up a measuring cup to about a cup or so of milk. Okay, so a tablespoon of vinegar and a cup of milk. Now, we're just going to let that sit for a few minutes while we do the rest of the things. Turn on my pan so that it gets warm but not too hot. Next, most pancake recipes you're ever going to see talk about having two bowls. One for dry ingredients, one for wet ingredients. Great, except for one thing. Do you really want to have to do all those dishes? Probably not. So I've created a different method for myself, which is not like, wow, super unique. No Nobel Prizes coming my way, but at least not in the cooking range. But I don't know where else it would come from either. Here we go. Takes a cup of sugar. Now this is a recipe for either two or for a small family. I get 8 pancakes out of this. Okay? 8 1/3 of a cup pancakes. We start off with a half cup of flour. I pre-weighed this out. 20 grams of protein powder. We want to have nice protein flavor or protein enriched pancakes, right? Sure we do. Why not? We're going to use a couple of tablespoons of sugar. So we're just going to take our tablespoon that we use for the vinegar and make vinegary sugar. Now we're going to have that over there. Notice how this all comes together quickly. Next, we're going to use a teaspoon of baking powder. So if you've always wondered what to do with your baking powder, pancakes is one of them. So, teaspoon of baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. So between the baking powder and the baking soda, that's going to help these pancakes rise and be fluffy, as these are both leavening agents. And a half teaspoon of salt. There we go, half teaspoon of salt. Okay. Now, to finish this up, we are going to add the other half cup of flour. Okay? And that just goes on top. Now, all these ingredients are just going to get sifted into a medium-sized bowl. And what you do is you just sift, 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 sift. And people are going to cringe, but I do that. I knock the rest of it in. Okay. Now, you have your dry ingredients. Give them a little mix. And we're just going to sort of push it off to one edge. By now, our milk has been sitting for about 5 minutes, and it's getting nice and buttery milkery. I'm not sure what the variation on that word would be. We add 1 egg. We're going to add to that our milk in just a moment. We're going to just break this up a little bit. Next, we're going to add our cup of buttermilk. Now, if you have buttermilk in the fridge, by all means, use buttermilk. If you make butter, by all means, use buttermilk. Chances are likely you don't have either one of those. So this is the butter I made this morning. And you can see it's very buttery. I'm trying to figure out if I can do a episode making butter and have the microphone not sound like you're sitting beside a KitchenAid. At this point, I haven't figured that out, so I haven't made it yet. That's going to come eventually. Okay, I'm going to pop this into the microwave. So what happens is you need melted butter. You can also use oil if you'd like. That would be fine. Maybe not as good. It'll work. But it sort of all depends on. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to wait for that butter to melt, and then I'm going to, not yet, I'm going to mix this all together. The other thing that often happens, you'll see with a lot of recipes, is a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla and salt just sort of spark the flavors of things, so we're not going to add much, maybe like, a little quarter teaspoon or so. And because it's a weekend and we're fancy, we're going to add a little bit of rum, so about whatever that was, teaspoon or two of rum. Just give that a little mix because it's darkening up a little bit. Now, the butter is being recalcitrant and not melting fast enough. So we're just going to mix this up a little more. And as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm slowly breaking in the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. If you have two bowls, you don't mind doing dishes, you can use two bowls and pull them in together like that. We have our melted butter into the batter. Now the great thing with pancake batter is it can be lumpy, it maybe should be lumpy, or it can be super thin and no lumps. You do you, follow your heart. Most people would say a little bit of lumpiness isn't bad because it all cooks out in the end. Notice how I'm not worrying about our stove because the stove is still on and the pan is heating up. We're going to put some oil in there in 2 seconds. If I were doing this without a camera on me, and microphone, I would let this rest for probably 10 to 15 minutes. And that would just let everything sort of hydrate together, come together, and be nice. Okay, we're just going to do that. I'm not licking this spoon because better. Okay, there we go. Now we have our batter. We're going to put some oil in the pan, which has been heating up. And I'm just going to turn this up ever so slightly. The oil we're adding, in this case, I'm just using an olive oil because it's what's by the stove. If you want to use a corn oil or a vegetable oil, that's probably perfect. You follow your heart. Whatever oil you need to have in your house that you have handy, away you go. Back to my usual rant on the price of olive oil. Lottie, $16, $15 a liter now. So you might want to use vegetable oil just because of that. But again, it's what I got near to buy. Okay, you can take this over to the stove. You can hear the oil crackling slightly. I can at least. I'm just going to move it around the pan, which means it's probably a little bit too hot, which also means our pancakes are going to cook a little bit too quickly. So I'm just going to turn that down. The rule of thumb, classic rule of thumb, is do a little water test. So get a tab of water on your fingers and you dump it into the pan and the water should sort of dance around a little bit. That means your pan is warm enough. Okay. Now, I use a 1/3 of a cup measuring device. It's what I've always done. I don't know why. It just seems to work. Into the pan she goes. And we wait a little bit. Now, the rule of thumb on pancakes is always the first side takes a couple extra minutes for what it's the way that it cooks. And you know it's ready when you start to see bubbles forming on the top of your pancake. So now this one I try to get all 4 pancakes in this. Because of how I know this bowl works, I know I'm going to need to do this. For whatever reason, these are looking thinner than normal. Oh well, that's the way she goes. We will survive. I mean, quality of life is diminishing rapidly, but we'll survive. Put my butter out there. Kirkland maple syrup. And you can start to see some bubbles forming along the edges. And as they're going to move into the center, we're just going to wait a couple minutes to for them all to sort of be bubbly. One of those crazy things about pancakes is we all make pancakes. Sorry, not make. We all enjoy pancakes. Maybe we don't. Most of us enjoy pancakes. They're yummy. They're flavorful. They're relatively fast for breakfast. And, you can tart them up by putting blueberries in them at this stage. That's kind of a nice thing to do. You can make all kinds of different variations with bananas. And I even make a plantain pancake, which is basically just smushed plantain fried. It's really lovely. And, you got all sorts of options available to you. So as we're dealing with things, as you're dealing with things when you're in your kitchen, start experimenting a little bit. I am thinking about that butter recipe. I am thinking about a pasta recipe. I tell you this because I've alluded a lot to how, sort of you do you can experiment the way you want to, but maybe you have no clue what to do. I get that. We're going to talk about Gardner's multiple intelligences in an episode soon. I don't know when, but real soon, because I need to explain why it is that this works rather well. Okay, why it is that some people can just make stuff up in the kitchens and other people can't. It's why people talk about cooking as art and baking as science, because baking, you got to follow the rules. And cooking, you can do all kinds of things. Okay? So if we look over here now, we can see that our pancakes are now kind of coming up nice and bubbly. So this is the first one we put in. So I'm just going to give that a little wee flip. And maybe a little bit too soon. So we're just going to turn up our heat ever so slightly, not a lot. This is one of the infrared type cooktops. So if I put it on 2, what that means is the element comes on 100% for 20% of the time, and then it turns itself off. And so it's flash heat off, flash heat off, flash heat off. So sometimes you need to sort of play around a little bit with your numbers. I tend to cook things on a lower heat than a higher heat anyways. It's better on your pans, and by and large, your food turns out better because it isn't being rushed. And there we go. So now we can see all 4 pancakes in the pan, and they're looking lovely. Now, we're just going to wait a couple extra minutes for them to finally cook up. Again, the second side of a pancake normally takes a little bit less time than the first side. So chances are likely you can do a little wee flip and go, yeah, it's looking all right. Not too bad. Nice little steam. We're going to do our second one here. We're going to lift that up. Looks all right. We're going to pop that there. We're going to grab our second one. Second one being the second plate. And again, a little underdone. The beautiful thing though is that, there we go. That's the magic one. Okay. Sure, whatever. Okay. Now we're just going to pop a little bit of butter. Again, just made this morning. And not that I'm bragging, just I had the whipping cream in the fridge. And if you don't use it, you end up with not even sour cream. It's just whipping cream you got to throw away. So I will explain the rationale behind butter real fast. Whipping cream is at Costco is still around $5 a liter. Butter, when you are looking at a store, is anywhere between on sale currently about $4 on sale to $5 a pound. Regular price, Lottie, I saw regular price butter for like $8 a pound. crazy, man. So just adding in a little bit of Kirkland brand maple syrup. Kirkland brand. There we go. And just for fun, I'm going to get the next batch going. Well, those just sort of rest for 2 seconds because it is breakfast. We do want to get going on our day. So we're going to pop that into the pan. We're going to pop that into the pan. And because our pan has now been seasoned with one batch, we don't have to add more oil. At least not with these, Teflon-y, don't have to oil pans. Of course, they don't always work all that great, but whatever. They're fine. Okay, so our pancakes are there. It looks like we're going to get, in fact, not 8, but 10. So here we go. We have our pancakes, our syrup, mix around our butter a little bit more, do a little wee test. Oops. Yep, we're going to move back to this. 3D House of Pancakes. Okay, that's an old reference. If you get it, yay. If you don't, go look it up. They work. Fabulous. So the great thing is, I'm not sure of the time, doesn't matter, not long. You can have pancakes. Again, tart them up with blueberries if you want to, or anything, or banana slices, or apple slices, or, make a compote, put that on. You do you, man. You follow your heart, your kitchen. And as we're looking at our third season of cooking, third season of life, whether we are transitioning from one life situation to another, whether that is from high school to college, college to professional working life, perhaps you're newly married and you've got to cook, or your partner wants you to cook more, so you want to do something like breakfast. Breakfasts are a great way to be a hero, just saying. Maybe you're at a stage where you are having company over, or your kids are staying with you, or whatever. You want to make breakfast. Dudes, here you go. Excellent. Thanks very much for watching. See you on the next episode, Third Season Cooking. Like, subscribe. We always like that stuff. Have a good day now. Cheers.